Welcome to Revive Hi-Fi Canada, and we're the channel here on YouTube that actually, I'm sure there are others of course, but we're one of the channels here on YouTube that we're just trying to get you interested in this hobby of trying different amps, speakers, DACs. We haven't done many DACs yet, but we will soon. And just to give you a little bit of a taste and a discussion about this hobby that we really enjoy so much, especially over the past several years. And today we're reviewing or discussing the Klipsch SB1 bookshelf speakers, and I believe these are from the early 2000s. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat that these are definitely not what I expected from Klipsch. So I'll give you a bit of a backstory here. I got back into this hobby around 2019, and for Christmas I received from family a pair of Klipsch R51Ms, and I didn't like those that much, and I know maybe I was too hard on them or expected too much from them because they're new speakers, and I had been listening to vintage speakers all of that time, but I just didn't appreciate them. I just felt like I could not dial in the highs to a level where I actually enjoyed them, and it didn't really have any bass, that much bass, and I just couldn't get to a sound that I truly enjoyed. So I had been skeptical about Klipsch. And then I stumbled across these the other day, and I wanted to try them out, give Klipsch another chance. I know that I'm again at the bottom levels of the range on Klipsch, but I'll try the different speakers that come my way. And this is the, I believe S stands for Synergy series, and this is the B1. I believe it's also the smallest of the series in terms of speaker, in terms of woofer size, or that could have been a 4-inch, I'm not sure, but this is the 5¼ inch woofer version. This has, as you can see on the back, it's not a bad quality build. The box is quite well braced. I was very surprised by that. I did a hard knock test. It just doesn't, it felt well braced, much better than I expected. And I was, of course, my expectations are quite low because I was quite skeptical about getting Klipsch again. And they actually had nice binding posts. And so did the R51M when I had it, and it has a rear port, and in this case the rear port, as you can see on the speaker on the right side facing rear, it is a bottom. The rear port is facing the bottom, is situated at the bottom of the speaker, and that is a little different than many of the speakers that I've had on the channel before, where the rear port is at the top behind the tweeter. So that was a little bit of a different approach, and I'm not sure what the rationale was for that approach. It's a vinyl coated box, especially at this price range. I would imagine that's what it is. It definitely is not real wood veneer. It's got, as I mentioned earlier, a 5¼ inch woofer and a tweeter, and I was expecting shrill and what I got was really quite the opposite. It was quite laid back, and I'm not really sure, I was kind of really surprised actually. I put this on, I listened to a bunch of songs, I listened to Aaron Neville, I listened to some Billy Idol, and I listened to some In Excess, I believe. I listened to some others as well, and what really struck me right away about these is that they had a really nice bass for the size of woofer. So the woofer is a 5¼ inch, as I mentioned earlier. It says it's an injected molded graphite cone, cast polymer frame. and it's got a tweeter, which is a horn, which is common of Klipsch. It's a 4-inch square horn, and it's got a polymer dome tweeter. And I mean, that's my understanding is that is a plastic dome tweeter. I've not had many speakers that had a plastic dome tweeter, and the speaker it had a pretty laid back sound. So we're gonna keep going. It of course is a two-way speaker. It has an impedance of 8 ohms. It has a sensitivity of 92 dB, and I think most Klipsch speakers have pretty high sensitivities. 92 dB, that means you don't need such a strong amp to drive these speakers, but I'll be honest, I'm going to talk more about this later. You do actually, they do benefit from having a stronger amp, and well, I'll keep talking about this as we go along here. The frequency response is rated between 60 and 20,000 hertz, so it doesn't go super low, 60 hertz, but I don't know how it rolls off, because it may roll off quite gradually because it has quite a bit of bass. It has nice binding posts, as I mentioned earlier. It's about 12 inches tall, 12 and a half inches tall, 8 inches deep, and about 6 to 7 inch, between 6 and 7 inches wide. They weigh about 9 pounds each, and they're really good. I mean, I have to say that they're pleasant. So when I went into this, my brain was thinking, okay, I've got to brace myself for the shrillness or for the in-your-face sound of these Klipsch speakers, and I got anything but that from this Klipsch SB1. I do enjoy their laid-back nature. So, I'll start with the highs. The highs were sort of restrained, I would say, in this case. At least in this pair that I have here, the highs are very pleasant to listen to. They don't have any sort of shrillness to them, even when I turn this up. And keep in mind, I listened the entire time with the amp that you see here, the receiver, the Yamaha RS700, and I do like the highs. The mids is where I think is where they could be improved, and we'll talk more about that later. And the lows, the bass is extremely strong. I'm quite surprised about that. So I'm going through a couple songs. I'll use Billy Idol as an example. I listened to Billy Idol, his greatest hits record, and his greatest hits CD through these, and they sounded really good. The only thing is where these speakers, I think, could be strengthened is their resolution of their tweeter. You have to remember, this is the bottom of the range. So this is not a huge critique of these because of their price point, but the tweeter compared to other tweeters that I've heard, I'm going to use as an example the Paradigm Monitor SE Atoms that we have on the channel for a few times in the past few weeks. Those have a bit of a much better resolving tweeter, but at the same time you get a brighter sounding speaker. These are not bright sounding speakers that, as far as I can hear, my ears are telling me they're definitely not. They do have good detail, but they don't resolve every detail. So I'll use the song Eyes Without a Face, and I love that song, and by Billy Idol, and it is an amazing song because of the music and the singing, of course, but the music is quite complicated in that song, and the various sounds, you could hear them in the speaker, but there are some times where it was doing such a good job at trying to reproduce the highs and the lows in that song that Billy Idol's voice got lost a little bit in the middle of all of that. So when the music gets very complicated, these speakers try to default towards the highs and lows and sort of leave the mids slightly neglected. And that's not a huge strike against them. They're still extremely pleasant. The highs that come out are not irritating at all. They're not shrill. So they don't, I mean, I can listen to these. I think they're great to have for a desktop speaker or a, beside your computer, because you can listen to them very close up and hear most of the details, but it doesn't hurt your ears. So I think these would be a pretty good choice for that. The bass is also extremely surprising. This music sounds rich. It sounds very full, lush music sound. For example, when I listen to Aaron Neville, Everybody Plays the Fool. Sounds really great on here. It sounded like a much bigger speaker than what was playing. So that was quite impressive. It sounds it sounded pretty clear, but natural. So it wasn't exaggerated in the highs. It was just natural sounding. I was extremely impressed that way. Soundstage, they do cast a pretty wide stage. Klipsch speakers they do have a pretty wide-reaching sound when you're playing through them. So these are no different. I think it's something to do with the horn shape of the tweeter. Height-wise, I didn't consider it to be that great height-wise. They're okay. I guess the part that has really surprised me the most about these speakers is the lows. The lows and the restrained nature of the highs make them very pleasant and rich sounding speakers, which is not what I expected. Again, the only knock I would have against these, and at least from my point of view, is that the mids do get lost a little bit sometimes. So some of the voices may or may not be as emphasized in the way that they've designed this speaker. The imaging is outstanding. I was pretty impressed with these, actually. The newer speakers, of course, image better. I find like my KEF Q150s image fantastic. Even the Paradigm SE Monitor SEs, they sound, Atom Monitor SE sounds really good at imaging, and my Wharfdales are out of this world. The 12.1s on imaging, but the Wharfdale 9.1s are also quite good. So they present a more 3D sound, whereas some of these speakers from the earlier 2000s, even my JBL S38, don't quite present that 3D type of sound. So take that for what you will. Still very good sounding speakers. So I think that's all I have to say. Very pleasant to listen to. That's pretty much the summary. And thank you for watching. We're gonna have a little bit of a demo. Of course, these demos are not meant for you to make some sort of decision about a speaker, whether or not to acquire that speaker. They're essentially just to give you a taste of how they might perform in a real life environment like here in my living room. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time on Revive Hi-Fi Canada. Bye now.
To